Welcome to the Inspired Business Leaders Podcast, brought to you by Inspire Wealth, bringing you interviews with top business professionals, empowering you to understand our current business climate and the successes and struggles other business professionals have overcome. Here's your host, Nick Bour.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Inspired Business Leaders Podcast. This is your host, Nick Bour with Inspire Wealth, and today we have on with us Ron Nussbaum, and I'm really excited to talk to him today. He is the owner and founder of Nuttnest, and what he does, I'm going to let him explain a little bit more, but if you're like most of our listeners, you've all used a contractor at some point in your life for something, whether it's for your business, your house, repairs, improvements you want done. And we've all had that experience to where the communication is not great, or you can't get the contractor to call you back, or they take half your deposit and then it's like 3 weeks later and you're just texting and calling and all of those types of things. Well, that is what Ron has created, and I am really excited to hear about it. So Ron, talk a little bit about your background and talk a little bit about starting with the vision and what Nuttnest is going to help consumers and individuals avoid some of the issues with dealing with contractors. So Ron, welcome to the program.
Absolutely, Nick. It is great to be here today. So a little bit about myself is I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. After that, I was looking for something to do, and that's what led me into the construction industry. I actually started out in the field, worked as a foreman, field supervisor, worked my way into production, operations management, and I spent a couple years in the sales department. So in total, I have just over a decade of experience in the construction industry. And what I had heard all the time from not all of our customers, but what we'd hear too often is, hey, we love you. We love the work you do. We love your guy. We love everything about you. But your communication is lackluster at best. And this is something that plagues the entire industry. This wasn't just specific to us. So I started putting together what a solution would look like. How do we completely change how an entire industry communicates with its customers? And from that, Nuttnest was born. And what I like to say is we're like air traffic control for contractors' customers. We direct that communication where it needs to go every time on every project to the right person. Because what ends up happening is that person that originally comes out to your house, 90% of the stuff that happens after he leaves or she leaves, they're not the right person to contact. But that's the only number you have. And then you call the office. That receptionist at the office doesn't have the answers to the questions that you're looking to get the answers to. So what Nuttnest does is it allows customers to reach out to the right person at that company to answer specific questions. So we direct that traffic. Say you have a question about project installation. You're not going to call the office or that sales rep or somebody that has nothing to do with that and then wait on an answer to come back. You're going to call that person at that company that controls that and get an answer the first time instead of getting, hey, I'm not the guy. Let me call you back. Oh, hey, that's Sam. Let me go see if I can find him. And then the ball gets dropped. That customer never hears back, and then they become pissed off. That's what we're ending, and we're going to create lifelong customers for contractors and home service providers by doing this.
You know, I think that is absolutely amazing, Ron. I think that we can all agree, as I mentioned already, we've all had at least one story to where, hey, I hired a contractor or I hired a service company and, you know, they're doing the work and they're doing great work, but contacting them if you have a question or contacting them if you want to know when they're coming back or coordinating schedules is for the most part, a nightmare. Maybe that's a little over the top, but I don't really think so. I think that.
No.
Go ahead, Ron.
Hey, Nick, what you're saying is exactly why Nuttnest was born, because it's what we hear all the time.
Yeah.
And the problem is that there's so many different lines of communication that are clouding everything from WhatsApp to iMessage to email to phone call to Facebook Messenger. There's all this stuff that's happening, and there's mass communication confusion that's coming from that. We're simplifying this. We're bringing it down to one platform that a contractor and their customers can use to be on the same page. And then we're allowing that customer access to the right person at the company. Because what ends up happening is you never have the right person's number. You're always calling somebody at a company that is not the right person to answer the questions. And that's what we're solving. We're putting that there so when you pick up the phone, my goal is to have 5 million contractors have one-call solutions for their customers. When that customer picks up the phone, they're calling the right person to answer that problem on every project every time.
So I think that's crucial, is what you just said. The one call, every job, every time. I think that would solve so much of the frustrations and the issues that us as consumers have with dealing with contractors or home service providers. And you know what? Here's a question I have for you, because I think this is so important as a bigger piece of this. But do you see Nuttnest as a solution not only for a small to mid-sized company, but also for that single contractor or that two-person company? Because obviously the reason I ask that is, obviously you can get lost in the weeds if you're a bigger company, like you said, with calling different departments and it's not even the right area. But if you're only a one contractor operation or a two contractor operations or a two employee operation, the chances of you getting a hold of that person, unless you're doing it via text, is like slim to none because of how much they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We feel like our main customers are going to be the bigger contractors that have more employees. But one of the things with the ones and twos is they're typically running a lot of subs. And I've been working with some builders and contractors that want to use our platform in-house to help better communicate with their subcontractors so that they can better communicate with the homeowners. So I think it serves a solution for all sizes. We're going to help grow and scale the communication piece, whether you're a 2-3 guy operation just starting out that wants to put their best foot forward to begin with, or you're a 200 employee construction company running 100 projects a week. We feel like we provide a solution for any one of those sizes.
So, it's interesting because, I think, as you've already said, I think that takes so much away. I think that the frustration from a consumer standpoint, even the frustration from a company standpoint, I think that not only can you help that one or two person shop or the 50 or the 100 person shop. Think about, and I'm sure you have thought about this, Ron, but I'm saying this facetiously, but think about what you can do not only from an efficiency standpoint and from, like you said, a lifelong client standpoint, but how much less stress does that company have, or how much more work can that company take on to grow if they want?
Yeah, so absolutely. 2 points to that question. 35% of time in the construction industry is wasted on communication errors, whether that's something done wrong on the project, people sitting around because they don't know what to do, having to go back and redo stuff because of miscommunication. Those efficiencies we're going to be able to curb, and that's going to increase the bottom line, create more time so contractors can be out there doing what they're good at. The second part of that is when you talk about people getting angry about projects and stuff happening, typically it's a aspiring thing, and it's the communication that lights the fuse for all of that. If somebody would just get the right answer or have the right conversation the first time with somebody, stuff wouldn't spiral out of control. We wouldn't have aggravated customers because it would be nipped in the butt immediately. It wouldn't become something that now the house is on fire and it's an emergency and we need to get as many resources there as possible because this homeowner is not happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's so important. So, I know you've kind of talked a little bit already about one of the main questions, which is why is communication so hard? So you've hit a lot of key points already. What I want to know is, technology's obviously come a long way, and we have a lot of people that if you would have asked if they text or email on their phone like 5 years ago even, they would have been like, no. Like, I want nothing to do with that, and other than maybe their grandkids or their kids, maybe they'll text. But other than that, nothing to do with it. Do you see tech or technology as being a solution to part of this?
Absolutely. We are at a crossroads in the construction industry where they're finally willing and looking to take on technology. It's one of the biggest trends in 2022 is how can we use technology to further advance the construction industry? And along with that, what I'm seeing a lot of second-generation leadership start to come in that are not going to accept the status quo in the past as being a reality, and they're looking about how can we be better as not just a business, but as a construction company, and use technology to move that forward. So for Nuttnest, we're coming to market right at the perfect time. This is the time where the customers are begging for it. The contractors are looking for a solution to this, and they're thinking about it with a tech mind, and they want technology to solve the problems so their guys can go do really great things and do what they're really, really good at.
No, I think that makes a ton of sense, and I absolutely think that's so key going forward because as I'm sure you would agree, being in construction for over a decade. I mean, how many do-it-yourselfers from a consumer standpoint just end up doing it themselves, not just because of money and because they think they can do it, but because they don't want to deal with a contractor, because they've heard horror stories about communication and taking half their money and never hearing from them again, and all the things that revolve around communication.
I would say that more people make the decision not to do business with contractors because of that than because of the money. I believe most people are willing to spend the money as long as they feel they are getting the right product and they don't have any concerns. That's where Nuttnest comes in as being that selling point from a contractor's perspective to be able to say, hey, we move forward with this project. We're going to take this deposit. You're going to download the Nuttnest app. This is how we're going to communicate back and forth. It's going to have all your project details right in there. We have developed a live feed, so think of like a Facebook or Instagram feed or anything like that for your project. It's right in there. You open it up, you go to your project, you're going to look at, hey, what exactly is happening? Who's at my house? What are the updates? What are the lines of communication I have had with people at the company? That's all going to be right there at your fingertips. And from a consumer's perspective, that's going to give you the peace of mind that, hey, you have chosen the right contractor to do business with.
No, I think that makes a ton of sense. So here's Here's a couple other questions that I'm curious not only as an entrepreneur and business owner, but I'm also curious as a consumer. So what are you guys doing at Nuttnest to get the word out to contractors and to companies about your service and the impact it could have on their business and consumers? I mean, what types of marketing are you guys doing at this point to get the word out?
So I'm out there. I'm working my networks. Being in the construction industry for the last 10 years, you start meeting a lot of people, and I'm meeting more people and newer people. And I think the key is just having conversations just like what we're doing right now in creating the awareness. It's a problem that has to be fixed, and people are begging for a solution. So just getting out there and spreading the word of what we're doing at Nuttnest we're seeing great things just from doing that.
And I think that's great. That it's definitely word of mouth and using your networks and who you already have relationships are absolutely a good thing if you can do it that route. The other things, and this is just me brainstorming as an entrepreneur. Have you guys looked at maybe like the construction shows or some of the builder shows and that kind of thing, because you're going to have a lot of builders and companies there that you guys can talk to about your product?
Absolutely. That is all on deck, going to the trade shows and everything. So If somebody's out there listening, they end up at one of the trade shows, be prepared to see a Nuttnest booth there, and I would love to have the opportunity to talk to you.
Okay. No, and that's good. That's good for me and the listeners to know too, because, I don't have a ton of construction contacts, but I will say I have some, and I definitely have some that are in the trade, the trades and the trade communities and some of the different associations along those lines. And I think that could be a very cost-effective way from a word of mouth and spreading that, as you said, awareness of like you just said, like having a booth there at one of the trades. I think that's a great idea. And those are things as well that I think would make a heck of a lot of sense. Do you guys have any limitations as far as demographics or locale or anything like that? Or are you guys nationwide?
We are nationwide.
Okay. So I think that's great because obviously you guys have no limitations. I mean, again, you're talking about technology and how to use technology to communicate between companies and contractors and consumers. So I kind of figured that, but I definitely wanted to make sure I asked that question. So I think that's great, Ron. Now, are you how long has Nuttnest been doing this? And it sounds like you guys are really starting to ramp up, and you have some really hyper growth projections over the near future, which is great for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So me and my co-founders, Jared Yellen, Grant Cardone, put all this together back in November, and within the next 60 days, we will be in users' hands. Homeowners and contractors will be using the platform. So we're out. We're running some specials on some pre-sales for some lifetime rates. And yeah, we're ramping up, and we got the sky's the limit when it comes to growth.
Yeah, no question about that, Ron. I mean, just based on the need for what you guys do, I mean, it's like I wanna like go out my door and just start screaming like any contractor, any construction company, you need to call this guy, because I mean, it would make your life a million times easier. It would make it easier to obtain jobs, and it would be easier to grow if that's your objective as a company, because that consumer, I mean, you start creating awareness and consumers start finding out. You know as well as I do, that's going to be one of the questions that consumers start asking is, what are you doing from a communication standpoint to make it a lot easier and more efficient to communicate with you and your employees or your company?
Yeah, what we see happening is it's going to go from being add-on from a sales perspective to help close more deals, to the consumer is going to start going, hey, John was out here, did my roof. He uses the Nuttnest app. I was really wanting whoever was going to do my siding, I wanted them to be on that platform too. Do you use Nuttnest?
Right.
The consumer, once we start creating these great experiences that are going to lead to lifelong customers, they're going to want that with their other contractors.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I completely agree with you, because it's just that the frustration is there. Plus, as we all know, the younger generations coming into play, the Gen Y, the Gen Z, they're so tech savvy that you are coming in at the right time, because as soon as they start hearing about Nuttnest and using it with one other contractor or company, I got to imagine, like you said, the next thing they do, they're going to be asking that. And I hope from your guys' standpoint, it's going to come. There's going to come a day in the near future where you're going to get a call. You're going to start getting calls from contractors saying, "Okay, tell me about your product and how the heck the consumer knows about it, and I don't."
Absolutely. Well, we're preparing for a land swell that's going to happen once this starts to become integrated in and customers start getting used to using it. That is what's going to end up happening, is people are going to be reaching out to us wanting to be involved. I mean, I think that's how it works when you set out on the right mission at the right time and you create some alignment. Amazing things start to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. You guys are doing the legwork now, and I think what you're doing is great for consumers. I think it's great for companies. I mean, being in my financial services industry 20 years, Ron, I mean, I've never heard of anything like this or any other company or anything like that. So it's interesting. Do you guys really have any competition at this point?
So our main competition are, say, like your CRMs and stuff, that they added on a communication feature as an add-on, because contractors were saying, hey, I need a better way to communicate with my homeowners. So they add in some messaging feature, or they add in a website porter. And what that ends up doing is that just creates like a fifth or sixth point of contact, and it actually makes things more confusing because all they're doing is creating an add-on. They're not creating a solution to the problem. They just are trying to add value to a product they're already selling.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it also makes a lot of sense that, like you just mentioned, it actually creates more confusion. I could absolutely see that. I mean, you've got the contractor, the homeowner's working with, or they're, even if they have an employee or an assistant, and they're messaging them, and it's like, how overwhelming or confusing can that be for a consumer if you're getting well, I don't know the answer to that, or let me get back to you, or no response for 8 hours. I mean, just all the same things. So I think that there's a big opportunity on the horizon for you guys. And, listen, I wish you and your co-founders much success, and help me, Ron, whether it's a consumer or whether it's a contractor or a company that wants to get in touch with you guys to hear more about what you guys are doing and how you guys can help really make that consumer experience so much better. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Hey, you go right on LinkedIn, Ron Wesley Nussbaum. You can find me right on there. Ron@nuttnest.com is my email address. Feel free to reach out directly via email as well. And Nuttnest.com will give you a little bit more details. That's all about ready to be revamped and looking awesome. So that's the best ways to reach out to me. I would love to have a conversation, whether you're a consumer that are just excited about what we're doing, or you're a contractor that are looking for a new way to communicate with your customers. I am open to having conversations with anybody that would like to.
Great. No, I think that's great, Ron. And like I said, I wish you guys much success. I really appreciate your time coming on the show today and talking a little bit about Nuttnest and what you guys are doing and how you feel like you're really revolutionizing the contracting and the company, the home service-based companies and the consumer experience.
Oh, Nick, it has been fantastic, and thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, to all my listeners, really appreciate you guys listening, and hope you guys will tune in on the next episode of the Inspired Business Leaders Podcast, and hope everyone has a great day. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Inspired Business Leaders Podcast, brought to you by Inspire Wealth. To learn more about the topics mentioned on today's show, or to listen to past episodes, visit www.inspiredbusinessleaderspodcast.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.